Bye.
Hey everybody, welcome to Knock Knock Eye with me, your host, Dr. Glockenflecken. This is your one-stop shop for all things eyeball related. And what we're going to do today, thank you for joining me on this beautiful day, wherever you are. It's spring, the weather's nice. In rainy Portland, we've had like a string of sunny days, which means we're about to have not sunny days probably for an extended period of time, but I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. I'm not looking forward. I am looking forward to the summer, but everybody tells us that because we didn't have any snow. I mean, nobody had snow, it seems like. But everyone's predicting horrible wildfires in the Pacific Northwest this year. I really hope that doesn't happen. It's scary when that happens around here. We'll wish that away. We'll knock on some wood and just hope we just had wonderful weather forever. Okay, so it's May. I'm feeling good. And what we're going to do today is, did I just say it's May? It's not May. What am I doing? It's April. I don't even know what month it is. That's how busy I've been lately. And I wish I could say it was ophthalmology, but that's not what's really keeping me very busy. I've been doing lots of Glockenflecken stuff, lots of projects, lots of recordings. I go through phases with Glockenflecken where like I get real excited to record a bunch of skits. Like I have a lot of good ideas and so I'll do a bunch and then I kind of burn myself out. I don't know moderation. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to pace myself. I just want to go and keep going. I get an idea. I have to record it that day. Like yesterday, I recorded like 3 different videos and there's like weeks throughout the year where I don't feel like recording anything. I don't know what that means about me, but I'm in an upswing right now. I'm feeling good, ready to just do all the content creation possible. We'll see how long that lasts. But today I'm going to talk about med school admissions a little bit. I'm going to tell you about my application to medical school and why I'm even like talking about this, considering I applied to med school 20 years ago. And then after the break, I have a thing I love about ophthalmology and a thing I hate about ophthalmology. All right, so let's get into it. Med school admission. So the reason this is on my radar right now is because I'm in an interesting part of the TikTok algorithm where I've been seeing videos of mostly like high school students and talking about like all the points of their application, like what they got on their SAT, what their GPA is, what their extracurriculars are. And then it goes by like which schools rejected them, which schools admitted them. So I'm seeing a lot mostly for like college, but I've been seeing a few for med school. And it just got me thinking about like my own application to medical school. And this is one of those old guy things that us olds, we like to do this sometimes where we think, would I have made it into medical school with the application I had just like 20 years later? And it's probably a thought experiment that only us olds enjoy. Probably young people don't really care so much, but it's kind of fun to just think back on my application. And I don't know, you guys might find it interesting as well. Maybe not, but whatever, we're going to do it anyway. I love these videos too that I see because like, well, most of the time people are very excited and like, yeah, we got in and got into my dream school, whatever. It's really fun to see that, some joy in a time where doesn't seem to be a whole lot of joy out there in the world these days. So anyway, here's my path to medical school. So I went to Texas Tech University, which is like a major university, but it's not like an upper echelon. Like this is a family. My parents went to Texas Tech. My older sister went to Texas Tech. It was just always there waiting for me, beckoning me to come out to West Texas amidst the oil derricks and tumbleweeds. Yes, there are tumbleweeds. They literally exist. We hosted an ultimate frisbee tournament one year in Lubbock, and one time we had to pause the action because there was a family of tumbleweeds that that blew across the field. It was the funniest and simultaneously the most embarrassing thing for me as a Texas Tech student hosting people from all other schools to our wonderful town of Lubbock. And the winds were also howling at 40 miles per hour, which, if you're an ultimate frisbee player, is not ideal. It was a horrible experience for everybody involved. We were used to it, but nobody else liked it. Anyway, uh, so I went to Texas Tech, and when I was getting ready, I decided fairly early on I wanted to go to med school, and I was a cell and molecular biology major, and I graduated. I finished with a 4.0 GPA, and that's mainly because I'm a maniac, and I chose studying over fun most of the time, and I was biology student of the year as well. And now, if my wife was sitting next to me, she would say that she was honors college student of the year, which I guess in her mind means that she's smarter than me. It's probably true, but that's beside the point. Like, we're both very smart people. And so I had that award. So I did well in my classes. My MCAT, I took a Princeton Review prep course. Now, this is going to be relevant for like a discussion later about this Department of Justice investigation into a handful of medical schools that's happening right now, which is a part of this conversation as well. But I was able to, and with the help of my parents, they bought it for me because I didn't have any money. They were like, "Oh, we'll invest in your future, son." Absolutely. And my parents, by the way, they're wonderful middle class folks. My dad's an aerospace engineer, now retired. My mom was a middle school, junior high teacher for 30 years, now retired as well. And so I lived a very like happy, comfortable middle class life. They paid for me to take this Princeton Review course, and with all the this is still the MCAT at this point, by the way, paper and pencil. I took this is my an interesting tidbit about my life that I'm sure nobody finds interesting. I took the last paper and pencil MCAT that was ever offered. Me. I took it. I took it with a room full of other people. And so took the course and ended up getting a 31S. That's the old scoring system. So I looked up like the comparison. You can calculate what from old MCAT to new MCAT scoring system. I got a 31, which translates roughly to a 512. From my limited Googling, I could tell that that's a lot of people would be happy with that score. It's not like upper echelon, but it's like better than average for sure. It seems like 500 is like the threshold. You got to get at least a 500 on this MCAT. Anyway, I got a 31. My goal was to get a 30. I was like, I really wanted to get a 30 because I knew that that made me competitive at most of the schools that I was wanting to apply to. And so I got that, and it was more. I remember getting that score back, and it was like not so much like I was like, yeah, I've crushed it. I'm the smartest man alive. It wasn't that. I was like just relief that I didn't fuck it up. I right that I like, oh, I can breathe. Oh my God, I might be able to be a doctor now. Because that test, you guys, I don't know if it's still like this. Worst test I've ever taken in my life. Oh, I was like in a catatonic state afterwards. My wife will tell you, I came into my dorm room after taking the test, and I laid face down on my futon that I had. You guys remember futons? That's still a thing. I laid down on my futon and didn't move for hours. I wasn't even sleeping. I was just like gone. And it's just like all the stress, it was just like, I don't know, that's how it manifested after the test. It's just I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I just was convinced. I was like the equivalent of doom scrolling, but in my own life, doom living. I was like convinced my career was over before it even started. That kind of like anxiety, type A personality, it's just total nonsense. But no, that's just how my body reacted. Ended up being okay, right? I got my 31. I was happy, had my 4.0 GPA. As far as extracurriculars go, I was the captain of the ultimate frisbee team for 3 years, which we weren't good, but I was the captain of it, which I don't know, maybe reflects a bit on my captaincy. Now, we actually started the team. So we were starting a team from scratch, and I was proud of that ultimate frisbee team. I also did stand-up comedy as a hobby, which absolutely made it into my application for medical school. And you can better believe I got asked about that by everybody who interviewed me, because you don't see a lot of like comedians who decide to go to med school. And I was just an amateur comedian anyway. And I did have like, "Hey, can you tell me a joke?" That was always a very anxiety provoking question to get asked during an interview. I hated it. And I had some volunteer hours and I had some research. I did have a third author publication in the world of bat phylogenetics. I did research on this genus of bats, of North American fruit bats. Couldn't even tell you what they were called. If I saw the names of it, I remember them. But I was like, I knew how to do like PCR and gene sequencing and gel electrophoresis and all those types of skills. I had those, and you know how they have helped me? Not at all. Not at all, because I was so desperate to get away from basic science research. By the end, I was like, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. I'm just doing this because I needed some money and I got paid to do it as a research assistant, undergrad research assistant. But also I felt like I needed it for med school. It's like the only reason, which is why I kind of talk down a bit on like pre-med, med school research, because a lot of people feel like I did. Like this is like, I don't really care about this. I'm just doing it because I'm checking a box. Honestly, that's how I felt about research. But you better believe I talked about my research experience with the passion of a lifelong PhD with an R01 grant. I was just like, this is what I want to make this part of my career. And did I believe it? Maybe I talked myself into believing it, but deep down, absolutely not. I was telling people what I think they wanted to hear, because I'm talking to academicians. I'm talking to people in academic medicine. I'm like, absolutely. It was part of my personal statement. I am passionate about advancing the field of whatever I wanted to go into. I did, even going into residency is the same thing. Oh yes, academic discovery is so important to me, and it's like, why did it? Because it's not. I just wanted to be a doctor to see patients, take care of patients. I liked medicine. I liked science. I didn't mean I wanted to do research, but I felt like I had to. And I know a lot of you can understand where I'm coming from because you felt it. You cannot tell me, all you people doing research as a med student, like actually really, really, really care about making that a part of your career. Anyway, but I did what I needed to do because I wanted to get into med school, right? So anyway, I had some research experience. So I mean, it helped me get into med school, I guess. And with that application, and by the way, my personal statement, I wish I could say it was like some hilarious, avant-garde, like amazing thing. No, it was just like your run-of-the-mill stuff, right? I talked about my volunteering and again, my research, and I just want to help people, all that stuff. So at least it was well written. At least I think it was. So I got interviews at all the med schools in Texas, because Texas was on a separate system. So I applied to all the Texas med schools, and then um, there's the other application process, which is like what all the other schools do. which is I think it was called the AMCAS. So if I wanted to apply outside of Texas, I had to do this other application system. And I wasn't even going to do it until my future wife, then girlfriend, Kristen Flannery, Lady Glockenflecken, said, hey, actually, I really want to go to Dartmouth for grad school. Let's go there. And I kind of froze when she told me that, because it was about a week before the application to AMCAS closed. So if I wanted to do this, I had to get on my horse and ride and get that application in ASAP. And so I told her, I was like, well, Dartmouth, yeah, like that sounds like an easy school to get into. Sure, let me just put my application in. And I did, and then a few other places as well that she was applying to, but she really wanted to go to Dartmouth. Dartmouth. So because of that, because she was dead set on Dartmouth, I was like, I'm gonna just write them letters. I'll make them not forget me. They're going to just admit me just to stop me from corresponding with them. Every time I would get, like, if I got like an award, like that Science Student of the Year award, I would like send them something like, look what I did. I got like the top score in my organic chemistry class. I sent them a message like, look what I did. I don't know, got some other stupid award. I was like, hey, look, I did this. Phi Beta Kappa. Hey, Dartmouth, guess what? It's me again, just over and over again. And guess what? I think it worked. It must have worked, because they ended up giving me a spot in the last interview day to come and interview. I got immediately waitlisted. And then 2 weeks before classes were supposed to start, I got in. And I'll never forget that call because I was going to Texas, Kristen was going to Dartmouth, and then it all changed. And turns out that ended up saving my life, because what was it, like 12 years later, I had a cardiac arrest and Kristen saved me. So sliding doors moments, right? It's crazy. So all that. Oh, actually, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to wrap this up into the kind of the question that I've been asking myself. Hey, Kristen.
Yeah.
Be honest. Do people think about their eyelids?
Honestly, I don't,
Okay.
unless something's wrong.
They should, because eyelids are amazing. They distribute your tears. They protect you from incoming objects. They're really important for overall eye health as well.
And we both know they can also be affected by something very common, Demodex mites.
Oh, yeah. Demodex blepharitis.
That's
when
right.
Demodex mites overgrow and they start causing problems like itchy, red, irritated eyelids with crusties.
Mm-hmm.
Collarettes, you got it. And everyone should know that if your eyelids aren't healthy, your eyes won't be either. That's why it's important to see an eye doctor, to get an eyelid check, which is part of a normal eye exam.
And the good news is there's a prescription eye drop treatment available for Demodex blepharitis.
It's great news. To learn more about eyelid health and Demodex blepharitis, visit miteslovelids.com. Again, that's miteslovelids.com to learn more. This ad is brought to you by Tarsus Pharmaceuticals. All right, so I laid out my application. Would that get me into not just Dartmouth, but just med school in general? I want to say probably, but I don't think I would have as strong of an application as I do now. And it's because I see how accomplished these students are, but also just the med school. And now I'm seeing it with my kids who are, I have a almost high schooler now. And what some kids this age are starting to like to position themselves to get into the Ivy League schools, and it's, I was like, that wasn't even on my mind as an 8th grader. I was going to Texas Tech. I was going to state school, and so and then that kind of drive extends obviously to like getting into the best college, but also the best med school, and then the prep materials. the mentoring you can purchase, the coaching, the MCAT prep courses. I just checked actually what the Princeton review course that I took, which I don't know how much it costs, but it's like $3,000 now. Like, I was fortunate my parents were able to afford that because it did help. It helped me get a good score. And so, like, would my application be competitive? I think, yeah, I still think I would get into med school with that, but it might be a little bit more of a struggle. I might not have gotten into as many schools as I could have gotten into, just because the bar just every year seems to get raised, and it's the scores are getting pushed up and pushed up because the test prep, people are spending so much money on that. People are understanding the test better, are able to not game the tests, but teach to the test much more than they used to. And so it's and then it just gets more and more competitive over time, which brings me to this Department of Justice investigation that Trump has jumped into, really as part of his desire to like eliminate any kind of like mention of diversity in higher education, like at all. And it's I think it's three schools. It's UC San Diego, Stanford, and Ohio State University. Basically, they're being investigated, audited. They want to look at all their admission data, all the ethnicity data, and again, with the like, if we find that you're discriminating against any race, particularly white people, because this actually stems from some lawsuits from white students who felt like they were being discriminated against, then you're going to lose all your federal funding, or that's the threat. Like, you're not going to get any federal funding, which is like almost a death sentence for a lot of schools. Maybe not Stanford, the Stanfords of the world, but you better believe that all med schools are watching what's happening here. And just the threat, I fear, will push people away from evaluating students on a holistic basis, and it being purely a numbers game, which I think is a horrible outcome to happen. Because now that been a practicing physician, there's so much more that goes into being a compassionate, intelligent, human, and a doctor. There's so much more that goes into it than just what did you get, how well did you do in your classes, what did you get on your MCAT, and how do you get to that point to know, okay, this would be a great candidate, this person would make a wonderful physician, just by looking at those two things, GPA and MCAT. Because I think that's what proponents of eliminating DEI and just diversity initiatives in general, and not are. I feel like that's what people are like. Feel like we should move into a world where that's really the only criteria. But I think that's a mistake. I don't know how people listening to me talk about this feel, but I feel like that's a mistake. Because of a lot of things I just talked about. My parents were able to afford a review course so I could learn how to take the MCAT and learn how to take it well. And by the way, I got to study without having to work. I was an RA. I worked in the dorm, but I was like the supervisor in the dorm, but I didn't have to do much. It was in the summer. And so I didn't have to work as hard. I did work through college, but I didn't have to work in place of studying. And I had parents who were able to help me. I didn't have to put myself through college. I didn't have to put myself through an MCAT review course so that I could do well in the test. And so you're absolutely going to turn this into like a system that skews way toward wealthy students that come from wealthy parents, or at least just parents that just can do these things. And you're going to leave out a lot of very hardworking, brilliant people with different upbringing, different backgrounds that can absolutely serve them so well as physicians, who can then serve patients in their communities well. And so I just, any system that moves us in that way, I think is bad. It's bad for society. It's bad for patients. We don't need a homogenous group of doctors who all have this same kind of upbringing, the same background, because that's not America. So anyway, I don't know. It's it'll be interesting to see kind of where this goes. And I hope we still are in a few years from now, we're still in a world where we can have holistic evaluations, not just looking at the numbers, but looking at personal statements, being able to evaluate someone in an interview adequately, looking at their people's values, where they've spent their time. All that stuff is important. And it can't just be a numbers game. This is ridiculous. It's silly, especially knowing what it means to be a physician. It takes compassion. It takes empathy. You can have the best MCAT score in the world if you have no empathy, and that will come across in all the ancillary parts of your application beyond your test scores. Am I taking crazy pills? Like, dude, is this too out there? I don't feel like it is. And so I just don't understand. It's frustrating to see this, like this attack on diversity. Like, oh, we're talking too much about diversity, and it's discrimination. Like, no, it's just we're just evaluating applicants from more than like one angle. Anyway, all right. I promised you guys some ophthalmology, so let's do it. I went a little bit long, but you know when I get going, that's kind of what happens. All right, so let's do a thing I love about ophthalmology, thing I hate about ophthalmology. By the way, when I got into med school, I had no idea I wanted to be an ophthalmologist. I didn't even know what ophthalmology was. It's like, is that eyeballs? Like I barely knew. And fortunately, I found my way into the greatest specialty on earth. A bit biased, but it's true. All right, so here's the thing I love. I love our ability to image the retina. People may not know, in ophthalmology, we have our own imaging, a way of looking at, most other specialties. You have your CTs and MRIs, and those get to be more advanced over time. Ultrasound, obviously, ultrasound just gets better and better. The images are better. Well, in ophthalmology, we have this amazing ability now to look at the individual layers of the retina. Let's just keep in mind like how thick the retina is. It's 500 microns, roughly. We're talking about like a piece of paper, like super, very, very thin. And for a long time in ophthalmology, we had no way of really looking closely at a microscopic level. And so things like macular degeneration, once we saw bleeding, that was it. It's hard to see like small areas of swelling, and it just didn't have just with our, handheld lenses and our naked eye. But with now we have something called an OCT, optical coherence tomography. We can look at the individual, all 9 layers. I think there are 9. I'm a comprehensive ophthalmologist, so I care about the retina, but I want to keep it at arm's length a little bit. all 9 individual layers of the retina. Like we can see those on cross-sectional imaging. So we can see as the earliest sign of any swelling in the retina from macular degeneration or diabetic macular edema or any other host of diseases that cause swelling in the retina. We can see it now. We can treat earlier. We can treat faster. And it's just, I would put that in easily like top 5 advances in ophthalmology that just changed the game, was being able to see parts of the eye in that level of detail. And OCT now is not just for doing that with the retina. We can do it with the anterior chamber angle. We call it an anterior segment OCT. We can OCT so many things now. We can OCT the optic nerve. We can see a cross-sectional image of the nerve itself. We can map out the nerve fibers that make up the optic nerve. And all these things allow us to treat eye diseases more accurately and quickly. It's remarkable technology. Even just from the time I was a med student to now, 15 years, it's gotten so much. We can see now the individual capillaries. We can map those out. We can do angiography using OCT to map out the actual small blood vessels that perfuse all those 9 individual layers of the retina. We can visualize that with dye. Sorry if you're like, who cares about this glaucom flecken? It's really cool. And it's the reason we're able to prevent people from going blind like we do now. So, I rag on research, and it's mostly tongue in cheek just because I'm not good at it and I have no interest in it. But man, the people that do this type of research, this like basic science, they're different. Like you talk about brilliant, so smart. And what they're able to come up with and move medicine forward and into doing all these things is just remarkable. Like I could not do my job as well as I do without people like coming up with these what seem like crazy ideas. Cross-sectional images of the retina, 500 microns. Are you crazy? But they did it. They figured it out, and now I'm better for it. My patients are better for it. So that's something I love. Retinal imaging technology. I love it, and I can't even imagine like what it's going to be in 15 years from now. It's unfathomable. All right. A thing I hate. I thought about this because there's a good number of things I really don't like about ophthalmology. I don't like sometimes how quickly and when I say we, I mean ophthalmologists as a whole, how quickly we are willing to adopt new technology. Because we've gotten ourselves into trouble several different times in big ways. Like we accepted this procedure called radial keratotomy. This was before LASIK. And I still see patients that have this. A fair number of patients are out there that have had radial keratotomy. This was a precursor to LASIK. It was for people who had high myopia. What we would do in order to treat it surgically is we would make radial incisions in the cornea up to about an 80% depth, literally taking a knife and just straight incision 80% through the cornea. We would do that at least 8 times, 8 cuts, sometimes 12 cuts, sometimes 16 cuts. I once saw an eye that had 24 cuts. And you know what? It worked. It worked for maybe 6 months to a year. So many people are like, the outcomes, everybody's looking, wow, look at this. Patient was -8. All we had to do was 16 incisions on the cornea and the myopia was gone. patient saw great in the distance 2020. So everybody started signing up. And by the way, obviously cosmetic surgery, so paying an arm and a leg for this, like people do now with LASIK. And then sure enough, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, patients started becoming way hyperopic, or they started having irregular astigmatism. The vision just started getting worse. And we realized, oh, wait, my bad. Yeah, turns out making 16 incisions in your cornea, it kind of destabilizes things. The cornea, it doesn't actually do that well after this. It gets irregular. You start getting flattening in weird areas, steepening in other areas. You end up with this irregular astigmatism. And now, even with a good pair of glasses, we can't actually get you seeing better than like 20/40. And so we stopped doing it. But you have all these people out there who had this surgery that was, by all accounts, a mistake. Absolute mistake. Thousands of people had this done. Now we have LASIK, which admittedly, much better procedure, but like people have bad outcomes from LASIK too. It's not nearly on the level of RK, radial keratotomy, but 15 years from now, are we going to be saying the same thing? That this is why would we ever think that making a flap in the cornea, using a laser to ablate the tissue underneath it and replacing the flap, basically cutting through all those corneal nerves, why did we ever think that this was a good idea? Will we be saying that? Maybe. I don't know. But that's why whenever we have new technology that comes out, like right now, the big new thing is these light adjustable lenses. So you put a lens in the eye and then you can use a wavelength of light to like change the shape of the lens. All the rage. Everyone's talking about it. It's great. It's great for a few people. I have not adopted it into my practice because every time a new lens technology like this comes out, you got people talking about it's like the best thing ever. Every patient should be getting these. And then almost inevitably, a few years later, we start seeing problems. Or it's just not worth the cost. It's like these lenses are like $5,000 per eye for these light adjustable lenses. Or just like patients aren't happy or something. And so I've decided in my career that I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait and I'm going to tell my patients, there's this technology. I have not adopted it. The data looks good. If you're interested in pursuing this, I can send you to one of my partners or another doctor who does. I'm not saying using these lenses is unethical. I have grown a little bit more conservative over the years in selecting patients like for the right type of cataract surgery and not jumping on new technology immediately. I can't do it. I've seen it. There's too many types of these lenses that just flame out. This is a thing with and maybe it's like this in other specialties as well, but certainly in ophthalmology, there's big expensive devices. We pass that the cost on to our patients, and for what? It was even necessary. I want to avoid those things until I can no longer avoid it. Until the data is so obvious and so clear that but then the question is, well, how do you get the data? Someone's got to do it. Okay, right. You're right. That's why we have trials, right? That's why we have studies designed to look at this. But you got these companies that have developed this new technology and they need as many people as possible to adopt it. And they have industry-sponsored studies. And so can we trust that? I don't know. Like, I want to be able to trust the data. So more power to these doctors who are doing these trials. Like, we need them. We need those trials. We don't need immediate widespread adoption of these new technologies. Like, that's not necessary. And we shouldn't be doing that until we're sure that that this is okay. We're not doing our patients a disservice. So anyway, but you're going to hear other opinions, and maybe some of you have a different opinion. I'm a slow adopter of new technology, and that's just, I'm just more conservative with it. And maybe that means that, some of I lose some patients because they want the newest and latest and greatest thing. And I'm okay with that. I always tell patients, hey, I'm happy. I'm not using this technology at this point. This is what it is. This is the data we have. All right. I'm happy to send you to a doctor who can do this for you if you're interested, or at least talk to you more about it. Yeah. And that's fine. That's fine. Happy to share the love with patients and doctors and get people where they need to be. That's it. That's it for Knock Knock Eye. Thank you all for joining me. I am your host, Will Flannery, also known as Dr. Glaucom Pluckin. Thanks to my executive producers, Aaron Cordy, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Burke. Editor and engineer Jason Pertizar. Our music is by Omer Ben-Zvi. Knock Knock Eye is a human content production. We'll see you next time, everyone.
Knock, knock, goodbye.
Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen, or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.